call our policy board meeting to order this morning on the 13th of March. So James, looks like we need to do a roll call here, see who's here. And
good morning. I will read the roll. Please let us know if you're present. Commissioner Carl Baxmeyer. Councilman Jesse Bohannon. Here. Commissioner Mike Burrows. Here. District Deputy Commissioner Matt Deitchley. Councilman Dwight Fish. Here. Councilman Douglas Graham. Here. Commissioner Carrie Groninger.
present.
Councilwoman Kathy Groninger.
Here.
Mayor Jeff Gross.
Present.
Mayor Phil Jenkins.
Present.
District Deputy Commissioner Todd Johnson. Mayor Gina Lichty.
Here.
Mayor Robert Lichtenberger.
Here.
Mayor James Mueller. Mayor Rod Robertson.
Here.
Councilman Mark Root. Councilman Tony Violi. Here. Commissioner Susie Wyrick. Mayor Dave Wood.
Yes, sir.
And we currently do not have a council member appointed from the city of South Bend, so that position is vacant. We do have a quorum of members present.
Great. Okay, so first item on our agenda this morning, we won't be doing a roll call.
Yeah, we do not have any board members participating virtually today, so we do not need to do roll call because all voting will happen in person.
Okay. So first item on the agenda is the minutes from January 10th. So look for, have any questions on those minutes? If not, I look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Any of those opposed? Thank you. Okay, then the for chairman, as far as I don't know that there's any reports that I need to give today, but then next on the agenda is Debbie.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think first on the agenda for me is a budget amendment that I would like to present. We are asking to amend the budget for this fiscal year by adding $1 million in total to our equipment and furniture line item. This is due to the timing of some vehicles we had on order and when we were receiving them and when we were paying them. So we have had 4 new buses come in this last 2 months and some other 5310 vehicles that we've ordered for some other agencies. So the timing of the original budget was a little bit off for those items. So we're asking to add $1 million to that, and the funding is coming from 5307 funds, which is FTA, and a little bit of local money.
As well as some 5310 for those.
And 5310 FTA.
So move.
Second it.
Question?
I have a question.
Yes.
You want to second that?
I second it.
So how does this adjust for next year then? How will that look? Is it going to short you? Are we going to stay at that level?
I don't know if we'll be at that exact level. So the furniture and equipment line item, it always looks deceiving as a furniture and equipment line item. When you go, what? Furniture and equipment is costing $4 million. But it's where we've always had our rolling stock. So our vehicle purchases. And so we're in the middle of a fleet transition for the interurban trolley. And so we have 13 vehicles currently that are going to go through the next few years of replacements. We do 4 to 3, because of COVID, we're doing some catch up. We'd ideally prefer on an annual basis to always be in the process of replacing 2 vehicles. Like if we hit a perfect equilibrium, it would just be consistently about two vehicles. Each vehicle costs a little north of $500,000. So you're talking about, $1 million or $2 million or $1 million or $1.5 million of those vehicles every year. But because COVID and timelines and development cycles and all of that, supply chain, we're behind on being able to replace those vehicles. So this first purchase, we were purchasing 4. We have 3 vehicles on order for next fiscal year. There's just some timing of when a vehicle arrived. So ultimately, when you're talking about short or not short, these are grant funded. And so those funds will be in a grant. And so the earlier timing does not pose a risk to us. It was just unanticipated when we originally created the budget.
So my additional question is, with those being grants, are they going to play around with their budget, at the big house and delay any of those grants?
Yeah, so they're non-competitive grants, so they're formula funding. Once it's in a grant, the funding is obligated and cannot be tinkered around with. It would only affect future allocations. So like right now, when you're talking about FTA funding, Federal Transit Administration, because of where we're at with the budget cycles on the federal government, I don't know if you've been tracking, but they've been having some problems getting out bills on time. So the FTA released a 5/12 apportionment in February, so 5 months, because of all the stopgap bills that they had been producing. But in that 5/12 apportionment, they said you can't use this to get to a 12/12 apportionment because of how formulas work and how the calculations work, and a lot of the funding's at 23 levels. So if you use this, it would be inaccurate. So what it does though is they just passed the USDOT funding one on March 8th. So we'll get a full year apportionment. All it does at this point is just slow us down a little, but we're not seeing anything that would inhibit us long-term at this point.
Okay.
James, 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, were these inflationary costs, or did we revise what we ordered?
No, these were, so vehicles have definitely gone up. We also are ordering a slightly different vehicle, which I'm happy to explain. So we used to, our previous 13 vehicles were Eldorado Easy Rider 2s. Eldorado, we had, at the one board meeting where we were kind of changing what we were going to purchase, we mentioned how we were having a lot of trouble with parts and receiving parts in a timely manner. We have been waiting over 2 years to receive springs for vehicles. Eldorado finally made at the beginning of this year, so well after we had made this order, they made the decision that they are no longer going to make large transit vehicles. So they have pulled out of that line of business. So we made the right decision. And so these vehicles are new flyers. They're either produced in Alabama or Minnesota. That's their 2 major plants. I think the first 4 were made in Alabama. I think our next 3 are being made in Minnesota. And it would be a very similar vehicle to what Transpo has. They have the Eldorado 35-foot Excelsiors, I think is what they're called. They're just CNG. Ours are diesel at this point. So it is a slightly more expensive vehicle, but also because of inflationary costs have gone up. So I think the last time when we ordered, we were in the 400s for a vehicle, and now we're scratching on the surface of nearly 600,000 per vehicle. So, and it's potentially only going to get worse.
Got it.
Because with Eldorado pulling out of the market, there now really is only 2 major competitors in the entire market for transit vehicles. There's the New Flyers, and then there is Gilligs. So while there are some other options that are out there, in theory, those are the primary 2. So the transit industry is trying to figure out ways to either standardize vehicles or do something to try and drive down costs, because there's now really only two suppliers. Yeah.
Wow.
Try buying fire trucks.
Second,
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I just got there because, oh my gosh, I was out there. I'm helping up at when you get your food bank over there. I was up there. So I was up morning early. So I got done and I thought, oh yes, it's here. So I said, come say hi. I hope everybody's doing well. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Because I got another doctor's appointment that I have to go to. But all right. Anyway, I just want to come say hi. Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
See you, Deb.
All right, see you.
Hope so, yeah. All right. Let me know if there's anything I can do, because I love to help and I want to help the homeless. Yes. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
So the other question I had,
Thank you. Nice seeing you. Nice seeing you. Take care.
I
Thank you
believe,
so much.
I believe during budget, I brought up the question as to whether or not we were going to stay with this historical version of how we budgeted the furniture or what is it, the office furniture?
Yeah,
And whether or not we could separate the two. It seemed
Yeah.
like it would be an easy way
we will
to separate.
We are planning to propose so our budget cycle comes up in July. So this spring, we would adopt a new spring/early summer. We'd adopt a new budget, and I do plan to present a option where we would have equipment, and furniture versus rolling stock.
Great,
Yep.
great. And equipment furniture does include office furniture that you absolutely,
It does.
that you use.
Yep.
That's all.
Yep.
All right.
Just as a much smaller cost compared to,
I'll
now,
assume compared to 600,000.
yeah, the other vehicles that are part of this, we oversee 5310 funds. Those are funds that are being provided to typically nonprofit that are doing senior services, or they're doing transportation for senior services or for individuals with disability. We administer that in St. Joe County. It's the only county that the state lets us do that for because of federal laws or whatnot. And so we do that for St. Joe County. These vehicles were like more cutaway vehicles. So this, the smaller bus, and they had a lead time of 32 months, something like that when we ordered them. They're coming in well ahead of that 32 months. So I had not factored them into this budget. Because when you're told 32 months, it's closer to 3 years. So I think they ended up being in the like 16, 18 month category. So wasn't ready for it. We have the funding available in that grant, so it's not a problem. It was just more of a timing issue.
Any other question? If not, we do have a motion and a second. I'd like to take a vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Debbie, the next one you had there was December, January financial reports.
Yes, so since we missed the meeting last month, I have presented to you guys the December and January financial reports together. Since they are cumulative, I'll just briefly say that in December, we had spent $712,372.90. At the end of January, our fiscal year to date expenses was $6,712,173.66, which is a little over half of our annual budget. Our cash balance at the end of January was $2,556,986.71. And our disbursements for the month of January was $1,156,279.38. Are there any questions either over this or January's financial reports? Hearing none, I'd like to ask for board approval for December and January financial report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah, I can touch on it. So one other item under financial, we just closed out our fiscal 22, right? 23. Sorry, I get so far behind. So
That far.
every year we receive a State Board of Accounts audit because we expend well more than the threshold for federal funds. So every single year we receive a SBOA audit. The last few years it's been done by Crow, as it was this last year. That audit, we just had the exit conference at the beginning of this week, just the other day. Please report. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to report yet because there is a period of time until the official report is published and everything like that. It was a very simple exit conference. It was less than 15 minutes. So very happy with where that will show that we are and very pleased with everything that our accounting department does to juggle all of these different federal funds and different items and regulations. And so we'll have that presented at a future meeting upcoming. It might be ready in time for April's, but we'll ask for your consideration of that at a future meeting. I don't know if I'm allowed to legally say anything more related to that, because they do have a period of time where you're not allowed to talk about it or something.
Yeah, they didn't mention that this time.
Yeah, I know.
I remember that.
That's why I felt a little more freer to talk about it, but
I think we just
Yeah, I know.
give
Yeah.
the details that we can say, like, it overall went.
Yep.
Great, it's always good. Next on the agenda, Secretary's report. Go ahead.
I have none.
In your packet, you do have the January and February modifications. These modifications are simple changes that you have empowered staff to make between meetings to the Transportation Improvement Program. You can see those full listings that happened in January and February. The public can find them online as well. It's only presented for informational purposes only. You don't need to take any action on that today. Okay.
And old business, I have none. James, do you have any old business?
No old business.
Okay. So new business. So we'll start down transportation resolutions.
Yeah, and we have no guest presenters today because the majority of our transportation staff is at road school. And so I'll be presenting these resolutions today. So transportation resolution 324. The first item A, is locally initiated in consultation with the city of Goshen. This project was originally going to let in an earlier fiscal year, and based on its development timeline, we're needing to have it move to state fiscal 2029. This is East College Avenue from Century Drive to entrance of planned development. Will now be referenced as phase 3. So this is being taken out of the Transportation Improvement Program only because the years in which that transportation improvement covers is FY24 through FY2018. We still fully intend for this project to move forward. It's just now moving forward in fiscal 2029. Happy to answer any questions around that. Otherwise, we'll move into the NDOT initiated resolutions, which are a part of resolution 324. Item B is adding a phase, which is the right-of-way phase to the Transportation Improvement Program for a project on State Road 15. This is 3.06 miles north of US 6. It's basically NDOT, if you're not familiar, they only reference state facilities. So when they give us projects, they will say it's State Road 15, 3.06 miles north of US 6. Or the common person would call that State Road 15 at County Road 146. Okay, but they only reference their project based on state facilities. So this is at State Road 15 and County Road 146. It's a intersection improvement with added turn lanes. The right-of-way phase would be in fiscal 24, so they probably have some temporary right-of-way that they're needing to purchase as part of that project. Item C is also an NDOT project. It is in Marshall County. We're adding right-of-way phase, as well as we're changing the construction year, probably because of the need for right-of-way purchases. That project moves from fiscal 24 to fiscal 25. There's also some increased construction costs there of about $360,000. And that is on State Road 10. From State Road 17 to State Road 117. This is near Culver, and it's an HMA overlay. HMA stands for hot mix asphalt. Item D is in Marshall County as well. State Road 106 from US 6 to US 6. That might sound confusing. One is the west junction of US 6. One is the east junction of US 6. This runs through the town of Bremen. what we're doing here is adding all of this project to the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. It's ADA sidewalk ramp construction throughout the length of 106 where appropriate. Adding in the PE, the right-of-way and construction. That construction would be slated right now for 2026 state fiscal year. Moving on, item E, it's a project in Elkhart County. This is on State Road 19. It's at County Road 6. You can see here what that mileage is compared to the rest of the state facility, but it's State Road 19 at County Road 6. It's an intersection improvement, looking at adding turn lanes. This project's being added to the TIP. The construction for this is estimated to be in 26 and 28. I don't have this as a fact and my NDOT folks aren't here, but what I would presume here is that the 26 part of that might be utilities related, where they're moving utilities early, and then 28 would be the actual main construction of that project. That is my assumption. We can get that clarified if needed. But that's adding PE right of way and construction. And then item F is State Road 119 at County Road 13. It is slated to be a other intersection improvement. I don't have additional details in front of me on what that potential design is. I think there are some upcoming meetings with county on that. Phases PE right of way and construction. Again, similar item where construction's 26 and 28. So 26 might be clearing and any utilities. 28 full construction is my assumption. Happy to answer any questions related to resolution 324. Otherwise, we'd be asking for your approval of that resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So next on our agenda is some transit initiatives, Zach.
Good morning. So our next set of resolutions, it all relates to the FTA Section 5310 funding program. James did explain a little bit about this earlier. We talked about the budget revision. This is the statewide 5310 program, so that NDOT runs. And so this program, again, is for organizations that provide transportation services for the elderly or persons that are disabled. And they're able to then, every year they have a call for projects, typically or primarily, the call is for purchasing new vehicles to operate that service. And so as the NPO in the region, we're asked to endorse those applications that go to the state. So those are due this month here. So I'm presenting those applications to you for endorsement. What you are kind of agreeing that this aligns with our coordinated human services and transit plan, which basically states that we support in a region more services to provide transportation throughout the rural areas of our region for elderly and disabled individuals. And so I'm going to go through this and kind of give you those details. So resolution 4-24 is for an ADEX application for 2 low floor minivans and 3 large transit vehicles to expand and replace their services.
just to provide some clarity. The state runs this process for the Section 5310 in Elkhart, Marshall, and Kosciuszko. We would love to run that for the entire region. Under federal law, only the large urbans does the state have the authority to say, hey, you can run that. So that's why we do it in St. Joe. We'd love to do it for all four, just to simplify it for the state, but they don't currently do that. So all of these projects, they are in the application phase. And so they're submitting their application for us to say whether or not their project type matches with our coordinated human services plan. From staff side, all of these projects do. Then with that endorsement of their application, they would submit those applications into the state. And the state actually vets all of those and chooses which projects they want to pick. And if any of these or all of these projects are selected, they will come back before you for the actual incorporation into the TIP. This is just an adoption phase. When it comes to where their match is coming from, I personally can't answer that. If that's
And it doesn't really matter where that match might come from locally. I could give them $100.
Yeah.
You give her, she's got the money, so maybe 20,000.
So what's the requirement for the match? Is the requirement on?
It's an 80-20.
80-20 on the total.
On the total, yeah. And the state only allows for vehicle purchases. While 5310 can be used for a lot of different things, operating assistance, software, etc. For the ease of administration, the state has always selected to have that be for vehicle purchases. And so it's fairly easy for us as staff to say if any of these projects meet with our plan, because they are asking for a vehicle to provide services. So like, yes, it makes sense. So they provide the 20% off the cost of the vehicle.
And then to mention that the state has a qualified purchasing agreement where they've already have received quotes on these vehicles. And so these organizations are basically selecting the vehicles off of that list. And so the costs that are presented here are the cost that was on that agreement. So everyone knows kind of those expected costs going forward.
So do we do any, I guess, qualifying of these particular agencies as it relates to size, number of trips that they make, how they actually are?
So since we're not the granting entity, we are just making sure that their project is consistent with our plan. When it comes to in St. Joe County, that vetting occurs with us. Like, do they have the money?
Right.
Are we going to get into a situation where we're going to have to repo these vehicles? Are they going to do the maintenance? Are they going to follow the rules and all those kind of things? That's what the granting entity would, before you enter in that relationship with subrecipients, there's subrecipient agreements that pay contractually all of the things. So the state does all of that. And then the state has an auditing program through RTAP. I mean, so Elder House.
Transit
is
where the,
Right.
all that information, trips, elderly, disabled, all that is annually reported.
And what I would say is all of these are folks who have received funds before, except the new one this time around would be Greencroft.
Yeah.
That's a newer, obviously not a newer entity, but when it comes to receiving 5310 funds, they would be a potentially newer entity.
And as it relates to the state requirements and where they cut off by size, is it so St. Joe County is under you. So that would include both municipalities. I should say both municipalities.
Anything in St. Joe County. Yep.
Anything in St. Joe County.
Yeah, just like in Fort Wayne, anything in Allen County goes through either NERC or there it might go through CityLink, the transit provider. So it was housed with Transpo for a little bit, but Transpo asked us to take it over because they needed that additional help.
And is there anything that we could do to advocate for the kind of oversight that St. Joe County has in Elkhart?
So the original way that this happened, many years ago, every single county in the entire state of Indiana was run through the state's program. The federal law changed that said the state may, for what's considered a large urban area or a TMA, a transit management area. So that's 250,000 or above. State may delegate that authority to administer 5310 to the MPO or transit provider. And so the state said, well, we would love to do that because it's a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. And so we originally opted for that to go to Transpo. Transpo had some challenges with it. So 2020, we started taking that program over. So the way that it potentially could change is if in the next authorization or reauthorization of the transportation bill, it's set for areas 50,000 or greater, for example, and I use that just because that's like the number that creates an MPO. For urban areas that are 50,000 or greater, the state may delegate that authority. And then they might do that, but probably not. And the reason I say probably not is because all of the funding for an area 250 to 50, it's not delegated by law where the money goes. It's said like, oh, this much could go to Elkhart and Goshen as an example, but it's all one big pool. And it's then up to, so basically Bloomington, Elkhart, Terre Haute, Muncie, Columbus, all the kind of mid-sized urban areas, all that money gets pooled into one pot. And so then the state has the ability to say like, oh, well, this year there are more applications in Bloomington, right? Like they can play with that pot of money. It's not required. Whereas on the large urban areas, the law requires that much goes to that urban area.
See, I thought the $250,000 or 250,000 threshold was by county, not by.
It is.
It is.
And so that's why St. Joe County.
Elkhart County is 200 grand, right?
It's the urban area though. So remember, yep. So do you remember that map that we had a few months ago?
Yes.
So that map for the area in Elkhart and Goshen is not 250. On that area inside St. Joe County, that whole area is 250.
Right. 250 is the threshold.
Yep.
And Elkhart is 200.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. So we're close.
Yep.
All right, just wanted to know. Thanks.
Yep, have more kids, Rod.
No, these are we're literally speaking about the elderly. So we still have to get to that space, but it'd be interesting to look at the differences in where that elderly population lives, and then obviously all of the other metrics that drive it, because I get consistent calls from our Council on Aging to help with the funding mechanism. Yeah. And I just want to make sure that we're able to see where all of the revenue streams are so that we can better advocate for those that are in need in that space.
Well, I guess this process is, they need the endorsement of this body as part of their grant process, right? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So ask for your endorsement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All motion carries. So next on our agenda this morning, you've got another one there, Zach, on
Yep.
resolution 824.
So you should have received this plan in your packet. It's the Inner Trolley Public Transportation Safety Plan, the PCSAP. So I like to call it. Just rolls off the tongue. Anyway, so this is a, it's a required plan for us to have for our fixed route system and access service system that talks about our safety plan and performance metrics for the service on the Inner Trolley and on the trolley access service there, and kind of outlines our procedures or processes to address any safety concerns we might have, including incidences on the bus and the like, and how we might train our staff and our vendor on mitigating those services. And so this we do this regularly. I believe it's yearly, right? I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure this is a yearly item. So we've done this before. It's much the same. So just updating some numbers. So bring it to you to approve the public transportation safety plan, which is the resolution 8-24. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any discussion? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next on our agenda is resolution 924, James.
All right, our next resolution, if you're not aware, it is AmeriCorps Week. AmeriCorps Week in 2024 is March 10th through March 16th. MACOG is in its second year as an AmeriCorps program. Many of you will recall last year, as the first year wound down, we had all the AmeriCorps members who served, or many of them who served, came and attended the meeting. They talked about the different sites where they were serving. This year, we have even more members. The program continues to go very well. And Serve Indiana asked us if we could help them. They have an annual, during AmeriCorps Week, they get together for a kind of mini conference and then a service project. And so actually on Friday, we'll have hundreds of AmeriCorps members from throughout the state up, who will be meeting at Howard Park, and then we'll be doing a service project after that. And so, am I expected to read the entire resolution? Is that the, no?
That's from
No?
AmeriCorps, that's why that's.
All right. But this year marks 30 years for the AmeriCorps program. And so we have a resolution here that would be a resolution to approve a proclamation for AmeriCorps Week in 2024 in the MACOG region. And it just talks about the impact of AmeriCorps, its members, and we would be asking for your consideration of that, since it is AmeriCorps Week.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
And as mentioned, we will, if anyone is interested, we will be meeting on March 15th, so that's Friday, at Howard Park in the event space there. I have on my calendar, and so that's always dubious, that we're meeting at 9, but I think that's when I'm supposed to be there, so I feel like that means that we're meeting at 10.
It starts at 9.
Okay. Amber, you are on, do we start at 9?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, my calendar is correct. So that'll be at 9 a.m. We'll have folks from the state, Serve Indiana, as well as other featured speakers, some state reps, there to talk about AmeriCorps. And then folks will learn about Bowman Creek and kind of where they'll be helping out for the service project. And then Transpo is helping us with some transportation to get us over to where the service project is. We'll clean up one of the parks in Bowman Creek area and kind of pull together a mini conference. I think our staff was able to pull that together in 2 months. So we hope that it goes really, really well, as it'll be a great payoff for the staff that invested a lot of time in trying to be able to make that work on a very short notice. So if you're interested, that's Friday.
Great. So then our next is our other action. Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, we have 2 other actions. These are annual actions that we take as part of the development of our UPWP, which is our Unified Planning of Work program. We talked earlier how we go through this budget cycle where we adopt a budget for July to June. And so first we start with our cost allocation plan, then we start to put together our UPWP, which is a foundational element within our budget, et cetera. We kind of go from there. But one of those steps is we ask for the endorsement of the state fiscal year 2025 self-certification. To oversimplify what is the self-certification, you should have received it. But the self-certification is that the last time we had a certification review. It was in June 2020. So that happens every 4 years. So it's going to happen again in 2024. I think it's scheduled for July. But during that certification, we had no corrective actions. This would be a period of time if we did have corrective actions where we would walk through how we were making those updates or changes, but we had no corrective actions. And that, like I said, our next one will be in 2024. I'm going to present the next item as well, which is then also an endorsement of the statement regarding MPO. Oh, okay, I presented them incorrectly. My apologies. So the endorsement of the statement of the MPO certification review is what I just told you. The endorsement of the Metropolitan Planning process certification, that's this one here that cites a whole lot of CFR and US code. And to oversimplify, these are all of the rules that we have to follow. And we are agreeing that we are going to follow them. So this is an annual certification that we will follow the rules that we have been told that we have to follow. It's pretty straightforward. And the other item, which is the certification review, is just a statement that is certifying when that certification review happened, if there were corrective actions, and when there's next due. Happy to try to answer any questions regarding these two actions. In the past, these are presented every year. In the past, these two actions have been lumped together into one motion if we so choose.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second, and is that for both?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And next, looks like we got Jeremiah. You got something this morning?
Yeah, as Jeremiah walks up, next month we'll have our overall 2023 year in review kind of overall presentation, but we wanted to give you an advanced screener just of how things have gone for the trolley services. So I'll turn it over to Jeremiah and Gary to present how things went for the trolley last year.
Great, thank you, James. So I'm going to start first by just saying quick, this is what we're briefly going to be talking about: the system, ridership, what we did in 2023, and then our 2024 initiatives. So first, our fixed route interurban trolley system predominantly serves Elkhart County. We also have our route, the yellow line that we share with transfer that extends to downtown Mishawaka. We run 9 buses in service. It runs Monday through Saturday. Here's the current route network. As you can see, there are 2 interurban routes between Mishawaka and Elkhart, the red line between Elkhart and Goshen, and then 3 community circulators that run to different neighborhoods in Elkhart. We also run a paratransit service for certified individuals unable to ride the fixed route trolley service. This corridor consists of 1.5 miles of all of our fixed route service. I do want to mention, just since we are a regional body, that Transpo also runs a similar service within 3/4 of a mile in St. Joe County as well. So basically anyone with a disability who has a disability that makes them unable to ride the regular trolley can register for this service and get transit for pretty much any reason that they need it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Gary, who's going to be talking about our 2023 ridership.
So on regular trolley routes, we had over 358,000 boardings. Our access service provided nearly 20,000, over 29,500 service to 337 unique riders. And in total, we served like 387,000 ridership across our transit system. This graph shows interurban trolley ridership from 2019 to 2023. In 2019, the interurban trolley had its highest ridership over 441,000. Ridership dropped in 2022 around 388,000 due to COVID-19 pandemic and continued to decrease in 2021. There was slightly recovery in 2022, and the upward trend continued in 23 with over 358,000 riders using the trolley. So this is the access ridership. The trend is similar to the trolley ridership, but there is a noticeable decrease in 2020. and the following year's lowest ridership seen in 21 with over 27,000. However, following the drop, there have been increase in ridership in 2022 and 23, but hasn't yet recovered. So for accomplishment in 2023, in April 2023, we adopted a Connect Transit Plan. This is a collaboration with Transport, enhancing the bus services across Southern Vishwaka and Goshen region. And update on new vehicle purchases. We have purchased 3 new access vans and also 4 new Flyer XG35 buses, which has recently got delivered. And these buses are diesel version, which Transport has currently. Now, Jeremiah will discuss initiatives for 24.
Thank you, Gary. So for 2024, our major initiative is starting to implement this basically short-term network for the Connect Transit Plan. And this is a map of both the entire MACOG region with transit, so including Transpo. So these changes are being done in collaboration with Transpo. We're hoping for this summer to make a bunch of changes to the bus system. These are all completely cost neutral except for the new routes in the ocean because of pilot funding that's already been identified. So these changes will include the Goshen pilot service expansion, where we'll modify the current red line, which is now will be renumbered Route 50 to now serve Goshen Hospital, and then we'll add 2 new routes in Goshen, one making loops on the north side and the west side, and then a new south side route that will provide a lot more service directly through the Greencroft campus and to additional parts of the industrial area. The second major enhancement that we're quite excited about is that there'll now be a 1-seat ride bus from downtown South Bend to downtown Elkhart via the Mishawaka Transfer Center on Route 30. And this trip will be completed in under an hour. So there'll now be a bus connecting all 3 of the 4 major cities in the region in under an hour. And that route will be operated in collaboration with some buses from Transco, some buses from the Interurban Trolley, just like we run the yellow line today. And then we'll finally be getting 3 additional new Flyer buses. James's discussion earlier about the budget amendment you voted on, and 2 new access minivans. That's part of why we need that budget amendment.
Where are you going to deploy those?
A lot of those are, the 3 additionals are vehicle replacements. So the current vehicles are aging out. We originally started getting those 2016, roughly. So, you're coming up on 10 years or 500,000 miles, whichever comes first. So starting doing largely replacements. And then our vans, we're kind of in that equilibrium that I talked about with vans, where those are a much lower threshold. It's like 5 years, 100,000 miles. We typically have about 2 vans a year that we're bringing in constantly to replace aging vans. And those are for the access service, that door-to-door service for individuals that have qualifying disabilities.
And we will be expanding from 9 daily vehicles to 11 due to the Goshen pilot service that we'll be launching hopefully this summer. And then finally, in the realm of audits, we also are in the process of doing our FTA triennial review. So lots of federal information.
We get the twofer. It doesn't happen often. It's now happened, unfortunately, in back-to-back. So we're hoping to get out of this cycle, but FTA does a 3-year audit, Federal Highway, and they're not audits, certification reviews or triennial reviews, they're audits. So FTA does every 3, Federal Highway does every 4, so they only align like every 12 years, but for whatever reason, the last 2 times, because COVID, we have these in the same year. So our triennial review, staff did a great job of getting everything together for the desk review, and we submitted that at the end of February. But the actual review will happen in September. So that's September 19th and 20th or something like that. So it'll be a very full and open and transparent year with State Board of Accounts and the FTA, Federal Highway. Come take a look. Yeah.
Do you mind if we get I could get a copy of the trolley metrics that you use, or data points that you use for Elkhart.
Yeah, we can certainly get you those numbers.
Because I have gotten some concerns about relocation of stops, given the construction that we have going on, and
Sure.
that's only going to be layered in pretty soon.
And we're always mindful of when we have to do detours and what it means to the overall system and timing and those kind of things. And so we usually try to find detours that can provide service wherever we're typically going. Just sometimes those key locations when they're under construction.
I think the location I assume you referred to is Franklin in Indiana, that intersection.
That's just the current one, but we got some projected future development that's coming in that will interrupt some of these lines, and I just want to make sure that we're proactive.
We'd always love to work with you proactively.
And I know that I think now have gotten a recently scheduled a standing meeting with the Elkhart, with your street department, so that we can be more proactive and make sure we're planning ahead, trying to see if there's anything innovative that we can do with the project on. I will say that the current project, they were super proactive at meeting with me, and I did try to be like, is there any way we can still, get one lane through so we could maintain service to that neighborhood? I'm told that because of the sewer reconstruction that could happen.
Wonderful. Once this is over, if you give me 5 minutes, discuss with you. Thank you so much.
And just for your information, the new courthouse in Elkhart.
Oh yeah, I did not mention, but
probably the first quarter of 25 is when we'll need to start service there.
And it's
planned.
It's planned.
I know, but I just wanted to give you an update on it.
Yep. So in Connect, basically we'll implement all the changes except that little extra deviation, and then as soon as the courthouse open, it will be in the schedule.
We'll get you that, but construction should be done at the end of this year. But there'll be a transition time as we move in and what have you.
Yeah, so as soon as you want service there,
I just want to bring you up to date.
Schedule will be a very simple service.
Just gotta kind of bring you up to date on what's timing of that.
So that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All the dates here are the calendar year, they're not in that fiscal year.
Yes,
they're all calendared.
Yes.
The numbers are based on calendar year.
Yeah,
I feel it's a lot easier to present on a calendar year.
And I will say that also our MTD reporting year, so the data we have to report for the trolley follows the calendar year.
So then every transit agency submits data into what's called the National Transit Database, the NTD. And so that's all done on a calendar year. Yeah. So it's easiest for us, since all of our other metrics are done on calendar and everybody thinks on a calendar, right? That it's a lot easier to present how we're doing with this service in a calendar.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next on our agenda, James, you have a few staff updates here.
Yeah, just quickly, speaking of transit, every 5 years or so, the service that we run, it's contracted out. And so we run requests for proposals to award those contracts for the fixed route service and the ADA service. We went through that process. We would receive 2 submittals, evaluated those, and we had made the award to Royal Excursion, who is our current contracted vendor, to continue that service for the next 5 years. So it was a good overall procurement. Costs are definitely increasing, as it is everywhere, right? But we believe it'll be a good overall contract. So wanted to make sure the board was aware. Next one, Regional Safety Action Plan. We were awarded funding from USDOT for the Regional Safety Action Plan. This is under the SS4A, or the Safe Streets and Roads for All. You may have heard of this grant program. There's currently an open notice of funding of availability that's out right now. In order to apply for implementation funds, you have to have a safety action plan. Instead of each of you individually creating your own safety action plans and having to go through that process, MACOG was awarded funding to do one for the region. So we will have a plan that covers the entire region. And for all of our cities and counties, there will be sections where you can essentially pull it out and say, this is the safety action plan for Goshen, or this is the safety action plan for Napanee or for Marshall County. So that way, when this grant program opens again this time next year, you will be fully eligible to apply for funds. We ran the request for proposals for that overall contract. We received about five or six proposals, did interviews. We received a lot of great proposals there. Would have been in, would have received a quality product from any of the submitters. We have selected Tool Design, who is sub-consulting with American Structure Point and Health by Design. And so that'll be our project team as we move forward with that. So you'll hear a lot more information on the Regional Safety Action Plan over this next year. The next update is a change to some NDOT processes. When it comes to all of your projects that are being funded with transportation dollars, and you're going through NDOT's process, all of your technical folks, they're going to hear this at road school. I'm not going to go into it in depth. We talked about it with all of them in prep last week at the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee. But essentially, NDOT has what they call their letting prep schedule. And it says when key dates, when certain things are due. Because of various challenges with environmentals or all sorts of other things, NDOT has gotten a little lenient around this final tracing submission date and has provided some leeway. Oh yeah, we can accept it if you get it all by this date, right? That's causing internal problems for them, certain steps not getting done or being rushed, etc. And so they are now going back to the policy that final tracings are due on the final tracing submission due date in the letting prep schedule. So it's going to be a little bit of a change back to what we used to do, and they're going to be a little bit more strict with that, and they're looking for that to start to take place in July for the July letting. And the reason why I think that's important is when you go back from a July letting, you know, that's already affecting dates currently, right? So this will be, while it seems far off in the future, it will be very sudden in the sense of just kind of adjusting to that. So talk to your engineers, talk to your consultants, make sure they're aware. We're making them aware. Kathy Eaton McCallop is doing a big presentation that I'm sure will catch a lot of people's attention at road school, as this will just affect potentially some schedules. So just be aware. So FYI. In order to help try and make sure that projects stay on time and on budget, we work with all of your practitioners to do quarterly tracking and review. We do that quarterly, as the name alludes. The next one is on April 11th. So that's where we sit down with you as the local government, your consultant, NDOT, and MACOG, and we talk through status of the project, where it's at, where it's expected in the next quarter, and just kind of continue to make sure that we have a good solid pulse around all of our projects. Last but not least, Partners for Clean Air. And this is an annual luncheon and event that we offer that is about voluntary ways to reduce emissions through the Partners for Clean Air program. It's an award program. Or an award program. There are awards given out at the luncheon for local governments and businesses, nonprofits that have taken voluntary efforts to reduce their emissions. That luncheon is on April 17th. It is at the Matterhorn, correct? Yep, great. Everybody's shaking their heads. In Elkhart, as it normally has been. And we will look forward to presentations from Sean Seals with IDEM, talking about kind of air quality status, talking about IDEM programs, as well as I believe we will have someone from the Indiana University Resiliency Institute to talk about kind of their programs as well as small presentations from MACOG, and then the actual awards I think we're still always considering award nominations. So if you have an excellent local business or nonprofit that has taken efforts to reduce emissions that you would like us to consider, please talk to staff afterwards. But that event is on April 17th. Thus would conclude all of my planned staff updates. And sorry that it was kind of the me show. We had a lot of staff over at road school, so I apologize. So. Oh, I don't know if we have. Yeah, that's a great point.
The last time you couldn't say.
Yeah, I think the last. Okay, so yeah, Commissioner Groninger made a good point. I believe last time we met, which was January, we made an alluded to comment about an exciting announcement that we would have. And then we didn't meet in February. And so all sorts of press releases came out and everything. So you should have seen that press. But we were excited in the end of January, beginning of February timeframe. We received notification that we were one of the only successful recipients in the state of Indiana to receive charging and fueling infrastructure funds. It's about $4.3 million that will go towards about 35 locations. Many of them will be level 2, which is kind of more community level charging. Lots of it focused on our smaller communities, some of our towns, as well as then maybe kind of the areas of our urban communities where the market isn't naturally going to fill in. That way, none of our communities are left behind. That's a number of them. I believe it's about 32, 18 that are urban, 14 that are rural, I want to say. Don't completely quote me on that. It's close on those numbers. And then 3 locations that would be level 3 charging. That included the South Bend Airport. And then there were 2 locations that were proposed for US 30, ideally one near Warsaw and ideally one near Plymouth. We wanted to have those level 3 charging facilities because US 30, although it's newly designated an alternate fuel corridor, it's going to take a long time for the state to get funding through its NEVI facility. And so we want to make sure that that facility has opportunities for kind of more travel that would be interstate travel. We're still very much in a wait and see location. The announcement came out like at the end of January, and it's been a hurry up and wait kind of situation, which it often can be with large federal grants. We just recently received the grant agreement. So it's taken 2-3 months to get to the part where we actually have a grant agreement. So we'll be getting over that to our legal counsel to review and figure out what all we need to fill in. So we don't know what it means for timelines. Ideally, we had said level 2s would be in fiscal 25 and level 3s would be later. But we'll have to see as this program rolls out really what that means for all of our timing. So just FYI, that's a really big win for our sustainability department. It was a very large grant, a lot of hard work put in by Leah to get that across the finish line. And we look forward to working with all of you and a number of our small communities on making that actually happen. So,
quick question just from my edification. At some point, is the cost to change from level 2 to level 3 possible? Is it?
So it all has to do, so I'm not the right person to answer this question. I'm not Mr. EV. Leah is our expert for electric vehicle, but it all has to do with the power that serves the location. And that then leads to the kind of the differential in level 2 is you get 80% charged within a few hours, like 8 hours or something like that. Level 3 is 80% charged in like 30 minutes, right? So it all has to do with the power servicing that location. And so I believe there are some locations that you can do level 2 and you're not going to have to do major electrical work. But in order to do level 3, you might have to get some much higher electrical that's servicing that location.
I was just curious because as technology changes, I see it more and more going that way.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have a lot of sites that really aren't used because they don't serve certain purpose.
Okay, privilege the floor. Anybody have anything to add? It's one thing I know I would like to say. I'd like to shout out to James and the staff. I know we were able to, Mayor Jenkins, Mayor Wood and I were able to go out to the conference out in DC there in February and had a good time and learned a lot of things. So, good to be back. But thanks for the opportunity to go out there and represent MACOG. So I appreciate that. The other thing I'd like to say something about is the Pell study of US 30 and 31. I think the next phase of that is supposed to be released here either the end of this month or the 1st of April, and that will actually have the alternatives that they're going to propose at given intersections. So it's going to be really imperative if you have intersections along the US 30 corridor that you're looking, or 31, that you're looking at what they're planning to do there, because this is our opportunity to give feedback and let them know what we like and dislike. I know that they're sadly proposing, or a lot of stuff seems like they're going to propose a lot of J-turns or RCI, I think they call them, reduced conflict intersections. So this is our opportunity to voice our opinions and whether we like it or dislike it. So just keep an eye out for that. And I'm sure James will keep us posted if something pops out, but that is due to be out in the next 30 days. So keep that in mind. So with that, any other public comment, anything online?
We had one on YouTube. It's from Green Crop Communities. They said thank you.
With that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.